Hey, what's going on, guys? What's happening? YouTube, you guys have tuned into Rules for Rebels, and we got an interesting story we're going to be covering for you today. This story comes to us from Forbes.com, and it's titled, "The E-Commerce Gold Rush is Drying Up. Here's How the Best DTC Businesses Are Prevailing." So, a couple things I wanted to cover in today's video. I think I'm going to call this video something about, could this be the death blow to dropshipping, or could this be the end of dropshipping? I do think this article makes some valid points, but as I was reading this article, and this is kind of another thing I wanted to point out for you guys, everybody's got a fucking agenda these days, right? Like you can't read anything, you can't consume any information without having to be very savvy about what the agenda is. And like I said, initially I thought this article made some very good points. But as I got further into the article, I'm like, this is a fucking commercial for blogging. Like, can you suck blogging's dick anymore? If you could suck a blog's dick, this article would be doing it. And then I get to the end of the article and I see who wrote the article. And I do see paid program here, so I'm guessing this is kind of a sponsored post. Here's one thing about Forbes too, guys. Like Forbes, I think we hear Forbes and we think like that's like a magazine, that's a credible source. And in reality, like pretty much anybody can be a Forbes contributor. And then you can also pay these Forbes contributors to write articles. There was a funny story a while back about this this guy who ran this hedge fund Ponzi scheme, paid about 15 grand. I think it was some Forbes writers. It might have been some writers for some other platforms as well. But basically to write all these articles about like, this guy is the youngest, most impressive hedge fund manager ever. And then it kind of gave him some credibility, and then he wound up running his hedge fund scam. But not comparing this guy to a hedge fund scammer. But what do I see at the bottom of this article? It's written by Finn Glover, founder and CEO at Matcha, an Atlanta-based startup helping e-commerce businesses grow using content marketing. This company, Matcha, spams the fuck out of my email. I must get 3 to 5 emails a week from them, and I bet you they call me twice a week, trying to get me to use their content services. I haven't used them. Maybe they're great, but keep in mind as we read this is basically one big advertisement for Matcha's content writing services. But I do think it makes some interesting points. And as far as the whole like, is dropshipping dead? It's kind of clickbaity. I don't mean to be sensationalist, but the cost of advertising has been skyrocketing, right? From Google ads, but even more Facebook. I think the cost of advertising on Facebook has gone up 70 or 80% in like the last year or two. The cost of advertising on Facebook, as well as, Google and other platforms, is rising steadily. And with dropshipping, the whole reason that it works is dropshippers kind of rely on quote unquote winning products, which you guys know I hate winning products, but dropshippers rely on the idea of winning products. And one of the problems with kind of relying on winning products or a fad product as opposed to building a real business is you're never going to get any recurring customers. You're not going to get returning customers. You're not going to get customers who are referring their friends to your business. And in my opinion, recurring customers, recurring purchases are the lifeblood of an e-commerce business. There are some businesses out there that can maybe survive on a one-off purchase. I've seen very few successful e-commerce businesses that have under a 50% returning customer rate or recurring customer rate. And then another thing is one of the reasons dropshippers are able to do well is because, most dropshippers are 100% reliant on advertising, right? Most of them aren't spending a lot of time content marketing, because why spend time on SEO and building out content when you're probably going to be done with your fad product and move on to something else within a couple weeks, 3 months, 6 months. So most dropshipping businesses are almost 100% reliant on ads. And if you look at some of the dropshipping Facebook store or some of the dropshipping Shopify stores for sale on either the Shopify Exchange Marketplace or Flippa, you can kind of see their ad spend along with the revenue. And as soon as the ad spend stops, the sales fall off a cliff. So, let's think about this. You're almost 100% reliant on paid ads. The cost of paid ads are going up. Right now someone can spend $50 on Facebook ads, $5 a day, and wind up potentially finding a quote unquote winning product and making some money. But as the cost goes up, it may not be feasible, and that could be the death of dropshipping. I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow, but it is something to be aware of. And to some extent, I think it's going to affect all e-commerce businesses. And this article kind of goes into a little bit more depth about how, most of us are renting our customers from either Facebook, or Google right now, basically, right? Like very few people have a close relationship with their customers, have really built kind of a community. We're all kind of renting our customers from Facebook, Google, YouTube, etc. So without further ado, let's get into the article again. This one was on Forbes. I'll put it in the description box below. It's titled "The E-commerce Gold Rush is Drying Up, and Here's How the Best DTC Businesses Are Prevailing." On January 24th, 1848, in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada, miners discovered gold at Sutton's Mill in Coloma, California. For the next several years, California Gold Rush attracted more than 300,000 people from all over the world looking to find their fortune. But by 1857, the boom was over. Many gold rushers were bust, but there was still a fortune to be made by those who could pivot their plans. In recent years, a similar boom has occurred in e-commerce, fueled by cheap advertising and distribution through Facebook, Google, and Amazon. As with any gold rush, the e-commerce companies seeking their fortunes were not rewarded for caution. Instead, they were rewarded for being the first to field, for funneling more and more cash into digital ads to acquire as many new customers as possible. In the past few years, over 1 million new online stores have launched on Shopify alone, most of which are selling commoditized products. They're all advertising on the same platform to the same audiences, and advertising prices have been rising steadily. And what they're talking about with commoditized products is essentially there's nothing unique, right? Like if you have something unique, if you have a strong brand, you're not a commodity. People are going to pay for your brand. But if you're just selling another widget from AliExpress, well, you know, what's to stop the next guy from selling the same thing and undercutting you on price? And the article goes on to say, and now that companies that bet their growth on temporarily deflated customer acquisition costs are now struggling to grow sustainably. The blog, long essential for B2B marketers, is the most underutilized tool in e-commerce. It sits at the heart of sustainable marketing moving forward. You know, I would actually potentially argue that like social media and video is where it's at. Although I do think blogging and content marketing is powerful. I also don't think it's fair to say e-commerce is dying. E-commerce has been steadily growing for years and is projected to grow much, much more. But I do agree that cheap advertising has been keeping a lot of people afloat. Blogging is the holy grail of differentiation. E-commerce blogging has 3 primary benefits: audience growth, engagement, and retention. But these benefits only matter if you appreciate the importance of your store's email list. From a transactional standpoint, it's a database that you can market to without paying a third party. From a brand standpoint, it's a community, a tribe you can nurture and grow. And you guys have probably heard this before. There's an old saying in affiliate marketing and e-commerce: the money is in the list. The power of an email list is as you grow an email list, and here, you know, I don't even run an email list for Rules for Rebels. That's something I've been meaning to get set up. But the power of an email list is you can market to your email list who, you know, they've obviously most likely either bought from you in the past or have expressed interest in your products. So you have targeted customers. You're able to market to, and a lot of these customers you have a relationship with. You're able to market to them without paying. You know, maybe it's not free. There are some email services that are free up to a certain amount of subscribers. But, you know, even if you're paying for something like Klaviyo, you know, you're paying a relatively small fee a month as opposed to paying for every click, every website visitor, every 1,000 people who see your ad. The article goes on to say, email has always been the most profitable channel for e-commerce, but it's only as good as the content that attracts new subscribers and fuels each campaign. Blogs are essential for growing an e-commerce business for 3 reasons. And they go on to say, number 1, blogging grows email lists. That definitely is powerful. Every time I send out an email, you know, I normally segment my emails. So, you know, if I'm sending out a sales campaign, it may go to, you know, anywhere from as little as 2 segments to maybe as many as 8. I would say each segment is going to make at least a couple $100. On average, the main email list or the main segments will make anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000. I should say in sales, not profits. But email lists are definitely powerful. Number 2, blogging nurtures subscribers. And number 3, blogging retains customers. So let's get into number 1. Blogging grows email lists. Blog content is super efficient at driving traffic from social media and organic search. And when blogs are optimized well, they're incredibly effective at converting readers into email subscribers. Our research shows that e-commerce brands can consistently convert 1 in 5 readers with the right content and tools. Number 2, blogging nurtures subscribers. Blog content has the power to entertain, inspire, and educate your subscribers in ways that flashy promotions, excuse me, in ways that flashy promotions simply cannot. Shoppers don't want you to sell them at every interaction. They want you to give them a reason to engage beyond just another discount. And a lot of people talk about that. I definitely agree with that. I normally don't try to educate or entertain in emails just because I don't think it's the right format for that. But a lot of people have a different ratio. For every 2 sales ads that go out, or out of every 5 messages that go out, maybe 2 of them are sales oriented and 3 of them are just either like community oriented, niche oriented. They're meant to educate, they're meant to entertain. Blogs nurture past customers in the same way they nurture subscribers who haven't purchased, creating ongoing value and keeping you at the top of mind. And some industries and some niches are easier to create content about than others. I was actually meaning to write an article or do a video about how to create content for quote unquote boring niches or challenging niches. I really don't think there is anything, or I shouldn't say there isn't such a thing as a boring niche. But almost every niche, almost every topic is interesting to somebody out there. I actually find the toughest content to create being around like very technical issues. Like I'm doing some work for an oral surgeon right now, and creating content on complicated medical procedures is very, very difficult. Whereas I would take boring content any day over that. There's a YouTube video by, is it like Scott Salon? I don't know if it's Scott Salon Company or some other company, but it's basically about how to stripe a lawn. So when you go to like a baseball game and you see like the real pretty stripes out on the lawn, it's basically like a 5-minute YouTube video about how to stripe your lawn. Seemingly a pretty boring topic area. Yell at me, Icarus. I got the battery dying and we got that fucking box popping up. Let me pause this for a second to grab my charger. Let's see. Okay, so we're talking about, I kind of lost my train of thought there for a second. We're talking about boring content. But yeah, Scott has this video where they teach you how to stripe a lawn. Seemingly a boring topic, but is really anything boring? Shit, man, go on Reddit. Like, there's a subreddit called pressure washing porn where people watch other people pressure wash. There's a subreddit called penmanship porn. Like, who would think that people would be entertained by power washing or penmanship? But like, people are entertained by weird things. And this Scott's video, I might be wrong with Scott's, whoever the fuck it is who teaches you how to stripe your lawn. This video has like 2.2 million views on it. So nothing is necessarily boring content. But moving on in the article, digital advertising gold mines are drying up. As venture capitalist Mary Meeker has written on her blog, we're in the midst of an SMB revolution. Just as publishing was democratized by the internet, e-commerce has been democratized by the emergence of self-serve advertising and platforms like Shopify. But how many online stores are actually growing sustainably and profitably? How many could go out of business today if they could no longer rent customers from Facebook or Google? In reality, it's easier than ever to become an online merchant, but the channels and tactics facilitating the boom aren't sustainable and are changing rapidly. Daniel Galati sums it up nicely. As a digital e-commerce brands became more reliant on paid marketing, customer acquisition costs became the new rent. This made Google and Facebook digital landlords. And the cost of renting that market real estate is skyrocketing. According to David Perrell and Austin Reef, advertising on Facebook has become 70% more expensive between 2017 and 2018. Cost per click is growing 23% month over month. Today, the success of e-commerce companies is largely a function of their communities. 2PM founder Webb Smith says sizable, loyal audiences will be the most coveted products over the next decade. And there definitely is some truth to that. We got an email list. One of my clients, we got an email list of over 2 million people. Obviously, a lot of them are not engaged. A lot of them are from, years ago, even a decade ago. But there's hundreds of thousands of people who are relatively current customers, and we can market to them for free. We have a relationship with them. So I definitely do think, well, this article is, super, buy our blogging services. It does make some interesting points. And I think a lot of people would be well suited to kind of form closer relationships with their audience, try to create a tribe, and be less dependent on Google and Facebook and Amazon. Sorry, I took too much pre-workout. I'm like going a million miles a minute here. I don't know. Let's move on. E-commerce companies don't build loyal followings from their carousel ads. They do it by delivering excellent content that fuels the entire customer experience. Blogging in the area of owned media. Oh, that's what I was going to say. So obviously, I think influencer marketing is kind of one area where you can kind of get away from paying the digital landlords, Facebook and YouTube. And that's one of the cool things about the internet, right? Like the power isn't in the hands of only like record companies or movie studios. Social media and blogs and YouTube have allowed people like you and me to grow large online audiences. And that's an alternative to advertising with Facebook or Google. Contact a YouTuber in your niche. Contact an Instagrammer. Contact somebody on TikTok or Snapchat or whatever else. And that's one way to kind of branch out from just the YouTube and Google stuff. Despite the end of the advertising gold rush and the shift of owned marketing, many small businesses still aren't blogging. Why is that when content has proven to be such a powerful tool? There are 3 challenges that we as an industry are overcoming together. Blogging is an investment. Blogging requires an investment of time, creative energy, and money that can feel more resource intensive than churning out ads. But this roadblock has become more of a speed bump, especially as the costs of content continue to decline, thanks to licensed content and freelance marketplaces. Businesses must learn to prioritize sustainable growth. We live in a culture that prioritizes immediate gratification. In some ways, blogging can provide this in the form of website traffic, email subscribers, and sales. But the real benefit is how these results compound over time. Winning e-commerce businesses move forward with prioritizing long-term growth over short-term gratification. And that is one of the cool things about blogging and content creation. If I create a piece of content, that's on the internet forever. So if I'm regularly creating content on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, that's all going to compound. And if your business isn't some fly-by-night business, the work you put in, the content you created 5 years ago is going to be fueling your growth 5 years down the road. With my e-commerce business, 3-4 years later, the majority of my customers were coming from a handful of blog posts that had risen up to the first page of Google. Lastly, number 3, measuring ROI is critical. Blogging will need to prove its worth to e-commerce marketers as it has to publishers and B2B businesses. At the end of the day, business owners must be able to see how their blog influences revenue with sustainable unit economics over time. Fortunately, e-commerce tools are becoming more tightly integrated and data silos are being eliminated, making attribution data more intuitive. Blogging isn't a silver bullet that makes building a good e-commerce company easy. Building a sustainable business will always be difficult, but blogging does serve as a tool for a type of customer acquisition, engagement, and retention that differentiates your brand and reduces dependency on large platforms and marketplaces. As the e-commerce gold rush ends, e-commerce blogging will propel small businesses into a new era of owned marketing. So I was curious to see if there were comments on this article. There aren't. But anyhow, I'll put this in the description box below. I'd be curious to hear your guys' thoughts on the cost of advertising going up. Like, has your business seen that? Has it changed how you advertise? Has it changed how you run your business? Are you putting more effort and more money behind influencers and content creation? Or are you taking advantage of the cheap advertising while it's here? Do you think the rising cost of advertising will kill dropshipping? And any other thoughts you have to share, go ahead and drop a comment down in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, guys. Again, if you enjoyed this one, subscribe, thumbs up button, all that good jazz, and I'll catch you on the next video.